we have a PowerPoint display up here.
So you have 10 minutes, Mr. Crispin. I'll tell you when you have 2 minutes remaining. If you wish us to ask you questions, please consider that in your presentation.
The first thing we want to bring up today is about the history of this line. 1939, a supplement when the rail line opened to Gisborne to Wairau. I've got a grandson sitting over there, partner, local Maori of Gisborne. I'm fighting for him. I'm not fighting for me. Half the people in this room won't benefit from rail. He will. I'll tell you why. We live in Gisborne as well as here. And every time I travel from Matawai to Gisborne, I see increasing volumes of trucks going to Plenty with produce that used to come here. The Port of Napier is losing. This region of Hastings, Napier, is losing. If you lose rail, you'll lose it all. Do not go for a bike track. You will never get rail back. And I will give everyone in the room here a copy of this today, if you wish. Study it, read it, find out how it began. It took 25 years for the government of the day from 1870 to proceed. And Joseph Ward, the government, the Conservative government of the day, decided to do that. It took till 1939 to get it to Wairau and 1942 to get it to Gisborne. It was the most amazing feat of mankind. It should be placed in the record book of one of the marvellous engineering feats of the world. To throw that away on a bike track is nonsensical and actually a bit vicious, really. Anyway, that's what it looks like when you want to go to. That used to be a terminal for the power station of Tuai. They proceeded to make a landing, they called it. It's around near Abitama.
Waikakapu, yeah.
Thank you, Ben. My grandfather was part director in the beginning of the Wairau factory. He was one of the first farmers that provided milk from his farm. That factory's closed now. I called Fonterra and I got a letter from them and they told me in no uncertain circumstances we will not move to here without a rail and road. Be clear on this. And we talked to everybody up there for 2 years to get freight back here on the line. Hastings yesterday, they asked me that question. How are you going to get all the freight back? We know how. We're going to work with Alan. We know the people. We know what they want. And they want rail. They want the sidings put back. The toll took out in 2005. Yes, they took them out. 16 track workers were hired to remove them. Okay, next slide, please. I'm sorry if I get angry about this. I've been fighting 15 years since we came back from America, and I saw how America works. Short lines like this one here we're proposing work in America. They've got space technology to make them work. We have instant orders online. They can stop at a siding, pick up freight. That doesn't work in Kibera. This was great policy. Came out last year. Ministry of Transport wasn't even considered what rail does for us. Look at it. Read it. I'm not going to tell you. You will get a copy of a handout. Everything I provide today is through my grandson's college fund. So treat it with respect. Take it home. Read it, please. Last chance you'll have. So, next please. Will it be the end for us, for him? No, we want to save the line for the future and the past. The past to make it. There were 23 workers died on the rail line and they want to turn it into a bike track. We can work with a bike track for Christ's sake. We can provide a corridor alongside the rail line in places. So please come on board with us. Next please. That was what it looked like when Alan's chairing of the Transport Committee of that year. I was sitting in that room, right here, when that was told to us. that they couldn't provide enough freight wagons and trains to get the extra freight on the rail. We had it, man. We had 65,000 tonnes in the first 6 months of that year. And they only had 35,000 tonnes every other year. Next, please. So John Key, he wants rail, believe me. He's not stupid. That man is very clever. He lived in England. He saw the way that they desecrated rail. He doesn't want to see transport only on the road. He knows it's going to cost. And I know. I drove 500,000 miles around America between Florida and Canada, Toronto, in 5 years, and I saw the way they fix roads up there. Big concrete bases under them, reinforced, not like these things. We can't do it here. Next, please. And Tolly said the same thing. These councils have to get together. I've asked Hastings and Crispin, and now this afternoon it'll be Napier. We need to get on board, all of us. We need to all commit to rail. We can't do it alone. They said the only way we can get it going is get commitment from the forestry. I had a man ring me up yesterday. There is something like a company from America that has a big investment up north of here. They have 500,000 acres of forestry around the globe, and they've got a big track up here, and they want to move it on rail within a year. Next, please. That's what we'll lose. And people that come on that last train that I was on, there was a passenger train, told me they will not come back here on the trip across the main line and the regional lines if we don't have Gisborne back. 500 people were on that train, all foreigners, mate. This is tourism for Gisborne, Napier. For all our trains, for all our people that are on the ships that stop here every year. They want to go on this too. Next, please. Tremaine says the same thing. He was down the motorway when we were coughing with dust. This sort of stuff. Out the motorway you can't live. This is what you breathe every day. 24 hours, mate. Liz knows well. We produced a report in 2004, and it's still as bad today. I measured it last night with this aerosol meter. Parts 2.10, part per million, 2.5 to 10. It was up to 200. Shouldn't be more than 50 or even 20. Okay, but anyway, that's the problem we're getting to. We really need to get rail on board. Next, please. Jim Quinn said it. Tragedy about no rail. Next, please. There you are, Jim Quinn. The regions would have to get behind it to make it work. He told you that in 2012. No one was listening. Next, please. So this government has told Hawke's Bay Regional Council, the finest council I've ever
2 minutes.
worked with.
2 minutes,
This one
Mr.
here.
Crispin. 2 minutes left.
Thank you. This council here I've worked with for 14 years is the best council in the country when it considers the environment. They spent big money on air, we'll call it the environment, you know. They've done a lot of work, you know, to consider the environment. And the government's saying, don't bother. It's up to you guys to protect us in the environment from too many trucks on the road. Next, please. Okay, so the MBI, that's rubbish. That report is no good, mate. We've got a report here. I've actually can supply it to Ellen today. This here is a copy of the latest traffic stats on the road. 73 pages from the government, released last month. Way after that report, and I drive it every week. And I can tell you personally, there's more than 200 trucks a day on that road. In that hairnet, you'll get Jenny Chitwin's letter to David Bennett when they closed the line, told the government it's not worth it. They had 200 trucks a day, he said. She said, there's not. There's somewhere between 600 and 1,000. Okay, lower estimate 600. We can prove that. Next slide. What she said here, Ellen said it, the report, this is the freight demand study, the latest one released last month. The report also reinforces what we've been hearing through the freight planning process the industry wants to make more use of rail. And when she said that word rail, Alan said, Judy, you just said the four-letter word. And you know, in all the time that I've been here, I have never heard Jenny say one word about rail. But she realises now, before she leaves in Swan Song, she said that.
Thank you, Mr. Crispin. We're out of time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Right, now we have Democrats for Social Credit, investment in Napier Gisborne Rail. Please.
Oh.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and everyone who's present in this room. My name is Heather Marion Smith. I'm on the executive of Democrats for Social Credit. I'm a social creditor for quite some time. I'm here because we did a submission because there's a very happy coincidence between this council and Kiwi Rail. Better sit here. A very happy coincidence that both this council and Kiwi Rail have a mission statement about putting the environment first. And when I was an economics undergraduate at Massey, one of the first things I learned was that economics, like ecology, stems from a Greek word meaning good housekeeping. Economics is about the wise use of resources. It is not about the 1% is making financial gain out of everything we do. So we're very happy to be here. And I've done a little bit of history because I think it's important that we sometimes have a bit of revision. If you look at I haven't given you a copy, but the New Zealand Railways Corporation Act of 1981 actually states there nothing new about what we have put in our submission and in the supplementary paper that you'll see we sent to John Spencer of Kiwi Rail. Even in Mr. Muldoon's day, the minister had the sovereign right to fund whatever was necessary in our infrastructure and on any conditions thought fit in the public interest. Now, in 2004, Councillor Barker may remember this, in 2004 there were revisions to the 1989 Public Finance Act which reinforced that same message that the government may borrow from any source within or without New Zealand and on any conditions thought fit in the public interest. And of course, a good environment is very much in favour and helps the public interest. I think everyone here will agree, and every councillor will agree because you wouldn't be on this council otherwise. Then, later on, of course, in 2008, the then Labour government bought back from toll at about $665 million, I think, bought Kiwi Rail back from toll. They didn't buy their trucking side of their operation, though. And then in the subsequent years, although Kiwi Rail was made as part of the Railways Corporation as a separate entity, it's really shocking that since Kiwi Rail came into being, they have spent tens of millions of dollars on interest payments to overseas banks, pension funds, insurance companies, trusts, you name it. And yet a mere $4 to $5 million, what we want to repair our track, is not forthcoming. And that's why we agree with Council when you say that provided the government repairs that track, the government could order a credit line from the Reserve Bank tomorrow. And we were disgusted to find that following the fall of Lehman Brothers and Wall Street, the banks here had a $5 billion credit line made available to them to rescue them through that liquidity crisis you may have heard of. So what can be done, as the great economist Kenneth Boulding said, what has been done is possible. The Minister could actually order funding of the rail repair this afternoon. It could be done as quickly as that. And 15 months ago, I approached a member of the Labour caucus, gave the information about Kiwi Rail finances, available in their annual reports to Parliament, and suggesting, and I did this from a non-political basis, suggesting that perhaps the Labour caucus could bring this matter up in caucus, and perhaps they could even ask questions in the House. Nothing was done. A tremendous amount of emotion was spent on Judith Collins, was it? The same amount of emotion and interest put into rescuing our rail line would have gone a long way. In fact, I suggested in a letter to the Gisborne Herald that they should have stormed the office of the Minister of Finance and said, "Oi, here's the law, you can actually do it now." But nothing was done. And a few weeks ago I said, "Oh, have you heard from that particular MP? They're looking at some options." I said, I offered some options 15 months ago, and nothing was done. And that's why we don't have faith in the opposition parties. So they're coming out electioneering about our rail line, but they could have done something 18 months ago or more. They could have done it because the law would have allowed it. So that's one aspect of your own policy of putting the environment first. I'm now going to hand over to Dick Ryan, who is our candidate for the Tuki Tuki electorate, a former Commissioner for the Future, and I will ask him to bring up another aspect of your own environment policy. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing this up now because, of course, the Commissioner for the Environment has just come up with her definitive statement. I don't know if you've already seen the paper, but hopefully we can change that to fracking unlikely. She says in her report that the wells need to be designed to minimise the risk of leaking into aquifers. I would suggest in Hawke's Bay that's impossible. We don't really know where all the water comes from, but we know it's all inside the basin. It's not leaking in only from the aquifer. So when the MP for the area says we don't want to frack right on the aquifer, that's not enough. It's going to come in from all parts of the basin. So she also said that she would much rather focus on the green growth because the major concern that she has is the impact of fossil fuels on global climate. Well, in this regard, the Carbon Tracker Initiative, a prize-winning analysis done in London in 2011, suggested, or actually proved, that only 565 gigatons of emissions remain as a safe carbon budget right up to 2050. That's to say, if more than that is burnt, then the world goes on a rundown on climate change, and we give the place over from the planet then becomes only fit for methane-breathing organisms. The total proven fossil energy reserves already extant represent 2,795 gigatons. Thus, therefore, nearly 80% of the stuff we already know about must be considered stranded assets. It can't be burnt. It's frozen. The three super energizers, that's America, China and India, are already making the right noises, and in some cases, like Obama's move last week, a move towards this. So what I suggest is, why hazard our 40-year aquifer losing all chance of green growth in our area when we're forbidden to use what might be squeezed out of the rocks below? Thank you.
Thank you. Two minutes remaining. Any questions? There was a bit of a deviation from the submission there, but that's fine. Councillor Scott.
Thank you for your submission, both of you, and the passion that you've delivered it. You have spoken in support of the proposal that's in the plan of the government returning the rail fit for purpose. They have indicated that they won't. There is a submission that to the annual plan suggesting a higher level of contribution for the establishment group and the regional council consider funding the repairs of the rail. Do you support that or not?
The government can and must fix the rail. It is able to do it this afternoon. It could actually arrange the funding right now, and we could start work next week. Because it can be done, we insist that it must be done. Because it's not fair. It's not fair to put it onto the ratepayer and taxpayer.
No.
Do you follow? But we certainly, the consortium, of course, that we've already mentioned in our submission, that is private enterprise, locally owned private enterprise. That is a different matter again, and they have every right to run a freight and hopefully a passenger service on the rail. Marvellous when being a Gisbornite now, former Taranaki, but a Gisbornite. We're going to have the Captain Cook celebration coming up in a very short time, and their preparations have started now with Dame Anne Salmond. And to have the railway really up and running, and for the Art Deco weekends, it'd be absolutely fantastic. Apart from the freight, but there's a tremendous amount of potential, agricultural potential in Poverty Bay and elsewhere that could really use the freight, refrigerated wagons and so on. And as Ken mentioned yesterday, the fact that Toll removed the sidings, I mean, that's vandalism, that they took those sidings away. That won't take too long to restore. In fact, we made a very cheeky suggestion to the Gisborne Council that they could keep the $7.2 million of GST collected last year. That would act as an interest-free loan, wouldn't it? And they could get but that was very controversial. But you sometimes wonder why they don't do it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your submission. It's your time, allocated time, and thank you.
Thank you very much.